Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the Fandom Zone once again, ready to talk some more Stargirl from DC Universe and the CW with my fellow Fandom Zoner and just all-around wonderful person in the known universe, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am great, Charles. It is good to be visiting with you again. We're coming up in a couple weeks. We're going to be talking 3 times a week.
Yes.
So that's going to be fun for a while. This was another good one. Slightly less enjoyable.
Yes.
And so I want to hear what you think about it.
Oh,
but,
interesting.
Overall, this show continues to entertain.
Yeah, because obviously this is a pretty notable episode for this short-lived show so far.
Yes.
Here at episode 180, we're talking Wildcats. And
Yes.
this is the 4th episode of Stargirl Season 1, aired just a few days ago on May 29th. Or excuse me, May 29th. And I got the wrong date here, sorry. Written by James Dale Robinson.
I did see that and went, "Eee!"
Yeah, so for those who don't know, if you're not comic book fans, and shame on you if you're not, no, I'm just kidding. James Robinson is most notable for writing Starman, one of my all-time favorite series that began after the events of Zero Hour back in the 90s, continued through until the early 2000s. And it was one of those just legendary comic runs, kind of like Neil Gaiman's Sandman,
Yes.
Jeff Johns' The Flash, just one of those kind of iconic runs. And he also co-wrote JSA for a little bit with Jeff Johns. He's written a bunch of other DC titles and whatnot. So he obviously knows his stuff, and he's very familiar with the Justice Society. So I was very happy to see him write this episode. So what did you make of it? What were you happy? I'm sure you were happy.
Yes, I did.
Since you were
I saw that.
squealing about this.
I did. When I saw his name, I was so happy. And just to stress, Starman was one of those just almost, a Mary Poppins of series, right? Practically perfect in every way, because it had a beginning, middle, and end. It told this hero journey. It was just so well done. We had the same writer and almost the same artist for the whole run. And one of the beautiful things they did is, if the art got behind, they did Tales of Past. So they kind of did fill-in episodes of former Starman.
The times past stories.
Yeah, and that way you could do some other artists. He took it upon himself that said, okay, for various reasons, there have been multiple Starmen in the DC universe. Challenge accepted. I am going to make them all connect into this series in a beautiful way. So, yes.
And he also wrote The Shade, the 12-issue maxi series.
Yes.
And interestingly, The Shade gets a little shout out.
I did.
So I have to think that James Robinson slipped that in there a little bit. So
truly my favorite villain.
Yeah.
I just love that the way they wrote him.
Yeah. I would love to see him here on this show.
Oh, absolutely.
But obviously with James Robinson's involvement, it really gives me at least a little bit more hope of my theory that maybe Courtney is Jack Knight's daughter.
I am pulling for it. I think that would be so great.
I mean, you've got all the elements there. Just make that happen for me.
Absolutely.
All right. Directing. Directed. This episode is directed by Rob Hardy, who has just really quickly. He's directed episodes of Arrow, Black Lightning, and Doom Patrol. So this isn't obviously not his first time experience with the DC universe. So obviously a solid choice, I guess, to direct this episode. And this is obviously a big focus because we get finally Yvette Monreal stepping forward into the forefront as Yolanda Montez, the new Wildcat, Wildcat 2. And then we get the introduction of Nelson Lee as the Dragon King slash Dr. Ito. And if you're a fan of the series Blade the series, you know, the TV series that was based off of the movie, which is based off of the Marvel Comics character, he played Shen in that series. I didn't watch that series, so I'm not familiar with him, but he also was in an episode of Westworld, and he's going to be playing the Chancellor in the upcoming live action adaptation of Mulan.
Okay, that's
For
some
Walt,
credibility. Yeah.
for Walt Disney Pictures, we also get Hina Khan as the fiddler slash Anaya Bowen, who turns up in a very odd sequence. And we also get the introduction of Wilma Calderon as Juan Montez, Yolanda's father, Kaiki Castillo as Maria Montez, her mother, and Jonathan Blanco as Alex Montez, her brother, who in DC Comics eventually gets possessed by Eclipso. So maybe we'll see that down the line. If the series lasts long enough, that is, probably. All right. Trivia this time. If you want to know a little bit more about Yolanda Montez and slash Wildcat 2, she first appeared in Infinity Incorporated number 12 back in the 80s. And then but she didn't become Wildcat until Crisis on Infinite Earths number 6. And to kind of give a little background on her, her origin is essentially she's a mutant because Yolanda's mother, Maria Montez, was given experimental drugs by the mad gynecologist Dr. Benjamin Love, Dr. Love, while she was pregnant. And Yolanda is obviously born, and as a child, she ended up manifesting her superhuman powers of retractable claws and cat-like agility. So she was essentially born with those powers, as opposed to having them given artificially by the Wildcat costume here. So that's a little bit of a difference between the comic book and the TV show. And then she ended up growing close to her godfather, Ted Grant, the original Wildcat. And during the crisis, when Ted Grant was paralyzed while saving a child, Yolanda assumed his identity and became the second Wildcat. That's her origin.
Yes. I was a little sad that there was not a connection with Ted Grant. But they've established they're not going. Yeah, that we don't know about. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe Juan Montez, was somebody who trained under Ted Grant or something, and maybe we'll find that connection. Maybe that's what will eventually bring her parents around.
Maybe so.
And we'll talk about that. So, 3 topics today as we get started here. Topic number 1, right off the bat, we need to talk Stargirl and Wildcat because Courtney finally gets a best friend, and it's a nice little superhero friendship. And so, what did you make of first Yolanda becoming Wildcat, and also her friendship with Courtney in this episode?
I really liked, so I'm going to kind of talk double speak here.
Go ahead.
I liked everything about them connecting, becoming friendship, building this. Yolanda still being hurt by the horrible way she was treated, and then she's mad at herself. Her family blames her for making a stupid mistake. Who hasn't made stupid mistakes? The whole premise of she wants to make her boyfriend happy, so she sends a topless photo and he shares it with the world, and she's horribly embarrassed. The pain of that was very real to me.
And that's very current to today because you do have a lot of young girls doing this.
Yes.
and sometimes getting burned as a
Right.
result. And
Yeah.
it just so
It,
happens that it just happened to Yolanda, and unfortunately, her parents are pretty unforgiving in
yeah.
that regard.
I did not like that part of the story at all. I was very um, unhappy with their stance on that as a parent. I also, this gives me, to me, more um, ammunition that Henry is not going to redeem himself later. I think he is just a horrible person and will remain a horrible person.
Well,
Uh,
well, if you noticed, if you watch closely,
yeah.
Henry didn't want to share that photo. It was Cindy who grabbed the phone from him
Yes.
and was the one who shared the photo. So,
Uh,
so Yolanda keeps blaming Henry, but it's really Cindy who did it.
oh, okay. I'll. But there was something. I just don't. I think he's a brat and just not horrible. So
Okay,
much as I
we'll
say,
see. We'll see.
I think the whole the time to Yolanda accepting her mantle took a little too long for me. And I realized it was just one episode. There was a little too much of um, how do I explore my powers?
Right.
And I think all of it was needed. I'm just saying it felt like it dragged the episode a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I didn't like this one as much because I would have liked to got more into the story. But then I'm sure that if they had done that, I would have complained, "Hey, they rushed the,
Yeah.
they give us the backstory enough." So I think they have great chemistry. Part of this is our lead character Bree
Breck.
is
Breck.
the
Yeah.
actor Bree. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's just really good, and she has this persona that she has almost a good chemistry with everyone because we talked about how much it's fun listening to her and Pat banter.
Yeah.
Well, now then you had her and Yolanda bantering, and it was just great. What did you think of this dynamic, Charles?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, they spend the first three episodes with Yolanda trying to lay low and getting picked on by Cindy, harassed by Cindy. Um, Courtney has come by and tried to stick up for her, to stand up to Cindy for her, try to make an effort to reach out to her, but keeps getting rebuffed by Yolanda, who just wants to be left alone.
Right.
And here we finally get the explanation why that is, because we find out that like you said, that this topless photo of her was shared around, and she basically became this. She was running like she was going to run for like student council or whatever, and um, was publicly humiliated, and because of this, word obviously gets back to her family, her mother and father, who I'm presuming are really seriously Catholic and very
Yeah,
religious.
I got the feeling they were very strict Catholics.
So because of this, they feel this horrible shame upon their family, um, and but and and they are horribly unforgiving of her, especially when it wasn't really like she made the mistake, but it wasn't her fault that the photo was shared around. It was,
Absolutely, and I think that's what um, this. I don't want to get too heavy, right? But
yeah,
we're blaming the victim,
right.
and I also really, really um, and it was a good choice to show her bearing her soul to her parents,
I
and
really like that scene where
I
where
loved
she
that
finally
scene.
stands up for herself.
Yes,
Yeah,
and says, and before that, she had told Courtney, before I've got to be Wildcat, I've got to get back to being me.
yeah,
And I thought that was a very powerful statement. And then to bare her soul and her mom and dad, nope, especially her mom, nope.
right,
You will never be forgiven. You will
right.
never, and
And
uh,
some parents are like that though.
they are. And and Charles, I know you have been blessed with two wonderful parents.
Right. Who would
I
never do
know.
something like that?
No, I know that.
Not that I'm
Uh,
doing topless photos because nobody wants
yeah,
to see those, right? Yeah,
yeah. I know that with my parents there was support, and I hopefully Lynn and I did that with Chris. The idea is, we may not like your behaviors, but we're never going to stop loving you. And we also am a firm believer that it's never too late to change. So maybe that's the reason I should give Henry a chance, right? Is there's always a chance for redemption.
exactly.
Um,
Otherwise, it'd be kind
so
of hypocritical if you didn't,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. You're right. I think so. As I said that, I realized.
Yep.
Um, and that that part of the episodes was very true. It rang very human. It was really nice. I like
Yeah.
that a
Yeah.
lot.
No, I didn't, as horrible as it was, the treatment, her parents' treatment of Yolanda, I like the fact that it wasn't an easy out for her.
Right.
Obviously, it's going to be something that's going to linger, and it's going to. I think it also is one of the reasons that drives her to become Wildcat is that her parents are very unforgiving, just want her to stay in her room, but she feels that, hey, look, I've been punished enough, and her Wildcat identity is probably going to be her outlet for that. So she's going to be sneaking out, and I'm sure there's going to be cause problems because of that. Um, but I see how it works within this character arc for her.
Yeah, I think it was really powerful. And like I said, eh,
And at least her brother sticks up for her.
yeah, and I thought that the idea of it's only when she is forgiveness is rejected that she, okay, fine, then you know what, I will, and not go and be self-destructive, but I'm going to use this force to do some good. Courtney and I are going to work on this together. And um and you know and I love the scenes of Courtney saying, I need you.
Right.
This is something, we need to do this together. I need a partner. I need something. And she's doing a great job of building a team around her. You see the genesis of her being a really strong leader, and I don't know if she had those, um, I don't know if she always had that potential, like in the past when she was doing judo or
Yeah.
gymnastics. Was she always someone who kind of was a spark plug and kind of led the other team? But you're seeing this about her, and I love the journey we're seeing of this young hero, and
Right.
her coming on her own is nice while keeping a very charming, fun personality.
Now we talked about last time how awkward it is the idea that Courtney's just going to be handing out superpowers to everybody or superhero identities
Yeah,
to everybody. Um, so it is kind of weird that Courtney is just like, okay, you get a costume, you get a costume, you get a costume. I need a team. Let's hurry up and do this so that we can
yeah.
fight the Injustice Society in 13 episodes. So it does feel kind of rushed to me. Um, and and it's just the structure of how the series is built that I think, kind of affects the storyline just a little bit. But as long as I forgive that, like as long as I kind of overlook this, the way that they're handling it, given this limited time, um, it does kind of work at least as so far at least with Wildcat because the costume instead of Yolanda having her own powers, she's given Ted Grant's costume. And at first, she's completely embarrassed by it because it's like, well, hey, it doesn't even fit. I look stupid. You look great.
Yeah.
And so she's feeling kind of inferior compared to Courtney. And then all of a sudden, she puts on the cowl, and which I don't really like the design of the cowl. I think it's a little too big for her body. I think it needs to be a little sleeker, but that's just me. And so she puts on the cowl, and the suit form fits to her body. So
Yes.
so it's like a one size fits all. Just whoever's wearing it, it adjusts to them.
And but I will give them credit for this,
Yeah.
and maybe this is implied, and maybe I'm filling in the dots, but I'm going, okay, she's going, who can I recruit
Yeah.
and she sees one, Yolanda is being victimized,
Right.
is an outcast, and then she sees the photos of her boxing, right? And
Yeah.
then it's like, oh, Wildcat was a boxer. This person is a boxer.
Right.
Maybe we connect. So
Yeah.
if
Now,
if
so do you think that was intentional? Just
yes,
I don't mean to interrupt,
no,
um,
please,
I think that was that maybe Yolanda was boxing because maybe her father taught her how,
could be.
and that would be because of his connection to Ted Grant.
That would be really a nice reveal.
I hope
That
so.
would be, yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a whole lot. I also, by the way, the more I think about this, um, when Courtney's mom is talking about Courtney's father, he sounds kind of roguish,
Hmm.
which could be very Jackish. You know, it
Yeah.
just it really fits into that. Um, but back to so
Sorry to derail you
no,
there.
no, I think that's a perfect ad because it Courtney is being selective on who, and so if they can follow up why they pick who becomes Iron Man, who becomes Doctor Midnight, if there is a logic a little bit why she's picking them,
Right.
and not just because, I mean, obviously they've set the standard by having these actors, in her kind of the loser table.
Yeah.
But if you can see not just, well, you're losers, let's get that, but in this one, oh, you're a boxer. You already have the physical,
Act.
grace and ability and the attributes, and therefore I think the cow, which I could agree with you, could be a little more form fitting.
Yeah.
But the suit sees her abilities and enhances them. So that was nice.
Right. And then all of a sudden, once she gets the suit, she's able to
Yeah,
do backflips and whatnot, and
yeah. You
so
always land on your feet
it's
and
like
like,
I have to wonder how the suit gave her agility, but okay,
yeah. Well, no, she already had that, and then
Oh,
it's enhanced it. In
okay,
other words, she's
I see,
always had great skills.
I
She's
see what you're
because she's
saying.
a boxer, and it's enhanced it. It's the juice. The
Yeah.
suit's like the steroid. It makes it a little bit better. Um, I
So
also I love the humor of, well, according to Wikipedia,
yeah, so that
which
was
we always know Wikipedia is never wrong.
never wrong. Yeah, especially because and never like people making up stuff to put on there. Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to talk about with you because it's such a very millennial or like even the Gen Zs um, approach to this that hey we don't know anything about Wildcat, so where are we going to go to look stuff up? Well, hey, the internet, right? And where are you going to go? You're going to go Wikipedia to look up what he could do. And I kind of love the exchange there, and it was was very timely. I'm not sure how well it's going to age as the series gets older, but um, talking about hey, well, hey, Ted Grack can do, Wildcat could do this, he could do this, and Yolanda's approach is like, well, like look, just because it's on Wikipedia doesn't mean like it's true, right? So, how do you know for
Yeah,
sure?
I love that. Yeah, and just because I can rip a toaster doesn't mean I want to jump from this fence in the
Right.
building.
Yeah.
So yes, it was good, very good.
Yeah. But the two girls, obviously they've got great chemistry. And, and it was very nice to see, like Courtney not just hanging around with Pat for once. Um, Courtney hanging around someone of her own age, a girl of her own age, and kind of finally connecting with someone at her new school.
Yeah, that was really nice. And I know we're going to talk about in another topic, but it was kind of nice that Pat got his own little storyline.
Yeah,
So that it was
separate
really
from
well done.
Courtney.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So just I need to break in and tell you, um, I just raised my rating by half a point because of our discussion.
Oh, excellent. All right. So apparently whatever I said persuaded you.
Yes,
All
indeed.
right, good.
Yes.
Um, while they're out catting around, so to speak,
Yes.
see what I did there. Um, they get spotted by Beth Chapel, who apparently is really good at seeing in the dark, and only because, hey, she ends up becoming the Dr. Midnight next episode.
Yes.
Um, so obviously there's going to be that connection now.
Yeah.
And like I'm sure Beth is going to confront them like, "Hey, I saw you two like um out there as superheroes. What's up with that?" Um and you talked about how Yolanda gave Courtney back the costume, saying she needed to work on herself. But then Courtney turns around later and leaves the costume for her after that horrible, even after Yolanda tries to stand up for herself and it fails with her parents. Um, Probably right when she needed it most, there's the costume sitting there with a note from Courtney, saying like, "Look, I can't do this alone."
Yeah.
So
And I like that.
even as her Yolanda's parents are rebuffing her, Courtney is reaching out, and
Yes.
probably at the time when Yolanda needed it most. And I really like that. So, what did you make of the scene where Yolanda sees Henry by his father's side crying? Like she's about to like use her claws on him, like probably intending to do him serious harm, and then she realized that that she stops herself. What did you make of that scene?
I, I like that. It shows that um, she has a heart.
Right,
She cares about people. She is a good person, and it also gives a little bit of humanity to Henry, even
right,
though I am boo boo Henry.
yeah,
I do think that was a nice moment to show he is honestly concerned about his father, and also the awkwardness when he stumbles into her in the hallway, and then of course,
well, it's like he wants to talk to her, but
yeah,
then
he
but then Cindy comes along.
right,
So this is why a feeling that it's not Henry that's causing it, it's Cindy. And Henry feels like because of his social status or whatever, he feels like, well, I can't. I want to talk to Yolanda. I want to work this out, um, but maybe he feels pressured not to.
yeah, and you wonder if the reason he has been such a jerk, like in the first episode
Right.
with his friends, is he's playing a role. He's playing a role that he feels like he's been forced to do,
I
and he
hope so.
can't break out of that mode yet. And maybe this friendship of them help them. It will be good, and we'll see. I did want to bring up Beth Chappell.
Yeah.
Angelica Washington is the actress. She gives me the vibe of, and I'm going to get the name wrong, but it's Kiko Agena,
Yeah.
who was, she was absolutely amazing as um, Rory's best friend in Gilmore
Lane.
Girls.
Keiko.
Yeah,
By the
yeah,
way, her name is Keiko, like my
Keiko.
cat.
Oh, okay, well, good. She is amazing in Prodigal Son. I don't know
Yeah.
if you watched that series,
No, I didn't.
but it's she's really good in it,
Well, she was
and
really good on Gilmore Girls, so yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And um, so I it's that vibe of energy and kind of um, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Beth, because she's she adores her parents. She has this great relationship with them. Like, why wouldn't I want to spend Saturday night with my mom and dad? Y'all are my besties. And
But her parents are just like, well, shouldn't you get some friends of your own?
yeah, because they're worried about her. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing where they do with that character.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, well, obviously we're going to get a lot more of her next episode. All right,
Yes.
anything else about Stargirl and Wildcat?
Nope.
All right, topic number 2. Let's talk Pat and Denise. So Pat doesn't don the stripe armor in this one, but he has a little mystery of his own that he's working on as um, Denise comes to him for help with her car, and um, she's obviously seems very troubled and very much in a hurry to get out of town.
Yeah.
So what did you make of this storyline?
I I like that. I've liked the character Denise from the start when they had that kind of meets cute at the
Jim,
the
yeah,
school, yeah.
yeah,
And it appears she has reached an end, that she was a loose end that Icicle had to take care of. Um, I It was very sad to see her. Yeah, that's all I have left with my son. That's and he's like, he idolized his father. He was a councilman. He didn't
right,
realize, that he's a magician. Um, and to have that payoff where she says she's leaving, she warns him, and then later he finds the vehicle in the scrap yard, which, by the way, was a funny sequence in itself. Going, what are you trying to build,
yeah,
Pat?
yeah,
Oh, no, no,
because
no.
yeah, because you had that scrapyard merchant.
Yeah.
Like Pat keeps getting all these odd parts, presumably for Stripe,
Yes.
or whatever he's else he's working on, and um, the merchant's like, "Why do you want this? Are you working on a dump truck, or what is that?"
Yes. Yeah. That was a
And
nice
he's like,
little
"Yes,
moment.
yes, I am working on a dump truck." Yeah,
Yeah. Exactly. So I thought that was it was a small little scene, but I thought it was. I'm glad you brought it up. I She played. She's afraid. She's in mourning, and ultimately, I think this gives him, not that he needed more validation that something's amiss
yeah,
in Blue Valley, but this is even more evidence that something's going on, and if we don't do something, a lot more innocent people could be hurt.
yeah, and she also did specifically warn him about the town. Don't trust the town, she said, and then she also hinted that she knew her husband was murdered. So that obviously is going to raise Pat's suspicions about what's going on. But yeah, just obviously, I think he was concerned about Pat was concerned about Denise, and then ultimately go to that salvage yard and find her car crushed, with just like just a few of her son's belongings still inside, but no trace of her. Um, obviously, like, well, obviously something happened to her. And presumably she was killed, but do you think she could possibly turn up alive somewhere else?
No, I'm saying that she's dead. I don't know, like,
I think she is
did you
too, but
did you see any signs on why she would have died? Like that it was icicle. I mean, they didn't leave anything, and I guess that would have been
no.
too corny to have like little shreds of ice somewhere or
Yeah, exactly.
something. But yeah,
Yeah. I
but
think I
you
think
get
it
the
was too
implication.
it's
Yeah,
too soon to kind of make it that easy for him. But obviously, maybe he'll this will encourage Pat to do some digging. And then Pat also made this, or like Pat and Courtney had this conversation earlier about that. Um, Courtney kind of speculates, well, like, what if the people in charge, like, what if it's the authority that are the Injustice Society? So I think Pat is going to probably do some digging into the um, elders, or like the people in charge, and maybe making those connections about figuring out who they are.
I definitely think he's going to. Absolutely.
So we'll see, but yeah. So at least Pat got his own little storyline in this one.
Yes, he did.
All right. Um, and anything else about Pat and Denise?
No, it was a small.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a small subplot, but I thought it was a needed subplot. Kind of wraps up a character, and once again gives him more evidence something's not good.
Okay. All right. Topic number 3. Let's talk about the Injustice Society, who obviously up to no good as they continue their Project New America, whatever that is, under the direction of the Icicle. So, speaking of the Icicle, so he shows up at Injustice Society headquarters, and hey, who's there but the Dragon King? So, who is a new member that we haven't met yet until now. If you're a comic book fan, you may remember the Dragon King from way back in the 80s from the All Star Squadron. And also from Jeff Johns' Stars and Stripe comic,
Hmm.
because, well, hey, he's got a daughter who just so happens has already been introduced. So she's obviously going to come into the forefront, and because she ends up becoming a supervillain of her own right. Just put that out there. But the Dragon King, obviously is a very mysterious hooded figure. Obviously, a little something going on behind that hood. And what did you make of this new addition to the Injustice Society?
So, first off, I think it's very sinister. He doesn't take his hood off,
Right.
around his
Well, there's a reason for
yeah,
that.
the mentor. I do not remember the comics, so I do
Right.
not remember the reasons.
Yeah.
The I I had thought maybe, and this was, you obviously know better, but I was actually thinking that Beth's parents may have been somehow connected to the ISA, and that we were going to have a little bit of the a daughter being a hero and the parents
Right.
being villains. Doesn't look like they're going that way, at least for now.
No.
Um,
As far as I
but
know, Beth's
yeah,
parents have
yeah,
no connection to the ISA.
yeah. He's very, very, he's very evil. He's very resourceful. I, the He's very competent. He's very evil, and he seems to be very subservient to Icicle. Whereas he is, and you always worry with a band of villains that they're going to, there's no honor among thieves.
Right.
There's going to be that, okay, well, I should be leading. No, I should be leading. He seems to be very comfortable in his own skin. Now, you know more than I do. Is that the correct vibe?
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the comics, the Dragon King is kind of like his own megalomaniacal supervillain. So it does seem a little weird to me, at least, to see him being so part of this group.
Okay.
And here he talks about, well, you know, he's building this machine for Icicle, and he says that one generation sacrifice will serve the next. He won't let Icicle down the way that the wizard did. And he says that, well, hey, I didn't really like the wizard anyway. Do you mind if I can take the body?
Yeah, that was creepy.
So, what is his plans for the body, for one? And um, I'm kind of suspicious. I think eventually the Dragon King is going to turn on Icicle, but we'll
And
see.
didn't you love the way Icicle, yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
That was well played.
yeah. So, but yeah, I'm very skeptical about how that partnership is going to work out. It seems like, yeah, it seems like it just seems odd to me that the ISA would bring in Dragon King of all people, because he's so like kind of like a villain in the comics that kind of does his own thing and he likes to be the guy in charge. So we'll see how that plays out. I think Icicle has something to worry about there. That's my speculation, at least at this point.
All right, we'll look
Um,
forward to seeing.
and then we talked about this a little bit earlier. When Yolanda was in Dr. King's room watching Henry, and Henry leaves, and then Yolanda's still in the room when all of a sudden, oh hey, Principal Anaya Bowen comes in, with all of things a violin, her fiddle, and presumably, not in the sense of like going down to Georgia and having a duel with the devil, but for a fiddle of gold. Um, that she goes in there, Anaya Bowen, who obviously, if you're a comics fan, that is the fiddler, and plays music for the Brainwave. The question is why, for one. Um, do you think that this music was healing him, perhaps, or was there something else going on there? What did you? It was a very odd scene.
It was a very odd scene. You mentioned, which of course tells you, just in a kind of weirdness. You're
Right.
mentioning "Devil Went Down to Georgia."
Yeah.
I'm thinking of 1776. He plays the violin. Um, the
I don't understand that
Yeah,
reference.
there is a song in the musical 1776
Ah, okay.
where
Got it.
Thomas Jefferson's wife talks about why he's so amazing, and it's because he plays the violin.
Got it.
Um, I don't. I'm not sure. She does look disappointed after she plays "Nothing Has Happened."
Right.
And I don't know if that's because she wants to heal him,
Right.
she wants to control him, or what's going on.
Or is she in love
Um,
with him?
yeah, I
Maybe.
don't know. And the she has, of all the um, villains in their secret identities, their regular. She has seemed to be the the nicest.
Yes.
She has seemed to be very fair to the kids.
Right.
She seems to not have this kind of manic
Well,
personality.
she also was the one who threw Courtney into detention, if you recall.
Well, absolutely, but Courtney was fighting. I mean,
Yeah.
Riley, we
Yeah.
have a no tolerance here.
Okay.
Um,
So you're okay
so
with it?
I'm okay with that. It's not fair, but I get that.
Yeah.
I think that was a nice little scene, and kind of adds to the mystery of what's going on in this world, and why are we keep going back to why are the Injustice League all here? Why are they all have decided to, you know, kind of retire and live in the city? What's going on?
Right.
It is
What is so special
very,
about
very,
this
yes,
place?
it is. It's very, yeah. I mean, it's almost like they're,
So it's almost like there has to be something located within the city limits that is
mhm,
part of their goal.
yeah.
So they
Well,
set it. So they set up shop here.
yeah, it's almost, it's similar to, and it's a stretch, but like Once Upon a Time, they had all these fairy tale characters under a curse
Yeah.
living in the city, town, not knowing who they are.
And they couldn't
And
leave the
this
town.
is,
They couldn't leave the
yeah,
town.
and it's almost like they're aware who they are, but is there some reason they can't leave? Or is this by force or by choice? And we don't know yet.
Yeah, it's still. I mean, even here we are at episode 4 of 13, but yeah, I think there's still a lot more that needs revealed in that regard.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like you said, it just adds to the mystery. So I guess we'll stay tuned
Yeah, I'm loving it.
and see how this plays out. But
Hmm.
some few more clues in the mystery, I guess.
I agree.
Anything else about this episode?
No,
You-
it was good. I love the banters. I'm curious to see. It looks like next week um, Dr. Midnight and Our Man don't get individual episodes. They get,
Right.
they're a combo,
I was
but that's
looking.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this happens and where we're going.
Yeah. So, yeah, we just hurry up and get two heroes. If you thought that
Yes.
Wildcat was rushed, well, hey, here's two
Yeah.
new heroes in one episode. So we'll see how rushed that is.
Yes.
One thing I did want to mention really quickly before we move on, um, there's a little scene with Mike
Yes.
where Pat's cooking breakfast, and Mike asks if he can bring his friend Jakeem over, which kind of reminds Courtney that she hasn't made any friends yet. So Um, earlier, Courtney was playing with the pink pen, the Johnny Thunder pen, and it wasn't working for her. So my speculation is that Mike will have Jakeem over. Somehow they end up in Courtney's room. They get a hold of Jakeem gets a hold of the pen, and the Thunderbolt comes out for Jakeem because in the comics, in the Jeff Johns JSA, Jakeem becomes Jakeem Thunder, and the new heir to Johnny Thunder.
So I'm so glad you brought that up. I was going to bring this up in Phantom Zone News. I don't know if you had this,
Yeah,
but TV Line, and I'm going to just read it. It's not very long. TV Line asked Stargirl creator series co-showrunner Jeff Johns if the show had any plans for an actual Green Lantern sighting. At first, he politely deferred. I don't want to talk about that before affirming we have plans for the lamp and a storyline for future episodes. And as John told comicbook.com, people want to say, oh, look, an Easter egg of the pink pin or the Green Lantern, but those aren't Easter eggs. They are pathways to new stories. And my hope is that we get to continue to tell those stories with more seasons of the show. We'll see, but everything leads somewhere.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is perfect for your point, right? Like,
right.
just you seem to throwing away a throwaway. I want to see when I heard that, all I was thinking of, once again, Courtney has kind of thrown that she hasn't made any friends and Mike already has.
Right.
But you picked on the name and everything else and could see a possible
That's
storyline.
because
Well done.
I was familiar with the comics, so I saw the connection there.
Yeah.
But and it just seems like logical that that's how what they would be doing. Now, as far as Alan Scott's Green Lantern lamp, their lantern, um, if they got all these other Infinity Incorporated members, so I have to hope that they would introduce Jade,
Hmm.
Alan Scott's daughter in the
Yes.
comics, um, as the heir apparent to Green Lantern, and hopefully that
Yes.
means also her brother Obsidian.
Yes. Both
So
great characters.
both great characters, two of my favorites from Infinity Incorporated. So,
I agree.
so fingers crossed that's who they're talking about,
Yes, I
because that
agree.
would also keep them separate from that HBO Max Green Lantern series that
Yes.
they're working on. So
Yes.
fingers crossed for that. All
Absolutely.
right, all right. Do you have any favorite quotes of this
I do
episode?
have a few. One, I just love this. Wildcat, his name is Icicle, the one who killed your dad. Stargirl, yeah, they call themselves the Injustice Society of America. Wildcat, who come up with those names? Stargirl, that's what I've been saying.
Right? It's like right? Yeah.
I love that. How
And
about you? You got one?
yeah, I've got Courtney's talking with Yolanda and she says, "Look, I said it wrong. It's not you who needs my help, it's me who needs your help." And Yolanda's like, "What?" Courtney says, "There's something going on here." And Yolanda replies, "Yeah, I have a lunatic following me around."
Yes. I have one. Courtney, this is what blew up Henry's car, showing her the staff.
Yep.
Yolanda, shielding her eyes. Yeah, that's also what blew out my retinas. Turn it off.
Yeah.
Courtney, sorry, fighting with the staff. Courtney, hey, come here, take 5. And the staff warbles, don't make me put you back in the crate. I love the staff's personality. It truly is an added dimension that adds some charm to the series.
Right. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, because I kind of wonder, what else is going on there. I think
Yeah,
there's something going on with the staff that's going to be revealed at some
yeah,
point. I like
absolutely.
um, Yolanda talking with Courtney. You're checking Wikipedia, and Courtney's like, "It didn't come with an instruction manual."
Yes. And
And
then
go
the
ahead.
last one I had is Courtney, are you in position? And Yolanda, if by position you mean hanging off the side of a building, then yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Lastly, my last one here is Yolanda as Wildcat saying, "You want me to jump off a building?" And Courtney says, "I don't want you to. Wikipedia said Wildcat could jump off buildings." And Yolanda replies, "Well, anyone could go on Wikipedia and say anything." Courtney replies, "It said your claws could cut through metal like butter, and it was right about that." And Yolanda says, "Murdering a toaster isn't exactly risking my life."
Yes, that was very well done. Poor toaster.
Rest in peace, toaster.
Yes.
All right, so what's your rating?
So I originally was going to give this 7.5, but after our discussion, I'm moving it up to 8. And there's a lot of different options on this, but I'm going to go 8 bedside serenades.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I enjoyed this one. I hear James Robinson's dialogue throughout this whole thing. I just really liked it. Love the connection between Courtney and Yolanda. I'm giving this one 8.5 out of 10 murdered toasters.
Yeah, I almost had murder toasters, and I thought also about Pop-Tarts.
Exactly.
So, boy, talk about, right? Like, he's like, no, you need to eat eggs. And, like, when she walks in, she just hands him hands at the box of Pop-Tarts. Like, yeah, we're not even fighting this. That
Exactly.
was great. Yeah.
Now, I didn't have any Phantom Zone news, but did you have anything else you wanted to talk
Yes, I
about?
did. So, Ken from Chicago has not sent us in an email, but he has gotten into a Twitter dialogue with us
Yeah.
and has exchanged back and forth. So, I apologize, Ken, if I don't do you justice, but I have a few things that he said. He and I were talking about the building being powered, and I mentioned, well, maybe there's a spell like supernatural, and he said, no, why wouldn't you use that power to suit up everyone? It can become a crutch. Usually in stories, there's a cost to limit frivolous or unlimited use. There are far more easier, mundane explanations. You could just build a trust fund that earns enough to pay the property taxes for a building, and it could just be off in using the solar generators. So appreciate that, Ken.
Yeah.
And then he said, and then I won't read everything else he did, but I thought this was really good. He said specifically to you and I about Icicle's plan, your discussion gave me idea. The kid's death isn't just two birds and a stone deal, more like in pool when you hit a billiard ball with a cue ball and it sinks multiple billiard balls. One, the kid death warns Stargirl he'll kill a kid like her. Two, if she doesn't retire, then this conflict will end in either her desk or his. Yes, he'll accept her fear or rage because she'll let her guard down. Three, just like Wizard got enraged, got cocky and reckless, and lowered his guard before his body temp got lowered, face screaming in fear, rolling on the floor and laughing. It's also a warning to the rest of the SI. Brainwave was cocky. Look what happened to him. Wizard didn't step as leader. My absent failed me, and you, more importantly, he failed me. Don't fail me. See what happens, those who do. And you mentioned that in Jeff Johns' writing of the JSA comic, it was about families and legacies. Killing the kid ties up a potential loose thread of him growing up and running revenge on his father's desk. Maybe the mom is next, or Icicle has retro views on women. So thank you, Ken. I really appreciate. There's been some, he always responds to the shows and on Twitter, and I
Yeah.
just appreciate his comments.
Yeah, I find it interesting. He'll spam a bunch of tweets, but he won't write in an actual email to the shows that he listens to. So
Twitter is his muse, so that's good.
it's like just combine it all in the email. It's a lot easier to read that way. All right,
Yes.
especially on the show. Um, so yeah, we don't have any fan mail, unfortunately. So like Ken, hey, you could write in. Just saying. Write to us at fandomzonecast@gmail.com. That's fandomzonecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Love to know what you're thinking about Stargirl or the episodes we've reviewed so far. Just give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. What we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, or just any thoughts about anything else you'd like us to cover here on the Phantom Zone. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. So, otherwise, you can reach us like Ken does on Twitter at Phantom Zone Cast, or on Facebook, the Phantom Zone Podcast, or Instagram. That's a fun one at Phantom Zone Podcast. We definitely appreciate that. Jesse, how about you? Where can they reach you on the interwebs?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW, where Ken and I and Charles all had a fun discussion. You can also hear me and Charles every week on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where we are currently going through classic Doctor Who episodes. We are up to Doctor number 6. Colin Baker, and we are discussing Cybermen coming up this week. So please check that out. Coming up shortly by the end of June, 1st of July, we'll be reanimating
Reopening.
Titan Talk, where we will be talking season 2 of Doom Patrol. So please check those out. And then in a special Tuesday of this week,
It's almost here. That would be,
that
you know,
will be
that
yeah
would be
the
on that would be
16th.
that would be on my birthday, by the way, if it's
No
Tuesday.
effing way. I
Yes,
did not know that. I
yeah.
am a bad host.
Because we're recording this on June 14th, 2020, in
Yeah,
case you're wondering.
yeah. And
So
on
2 days from now, the Tuesday would be my 51st birthday.
so in a stroke of synergy on Charles's 51st birthday, the long-awaited, much demanded, the 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 crossover
But
you didn't know you needed, Charles Skaggs talking music on Set Listing Bruce. We have that. It was a really fun discussion. We had a great time, and Charles had a pretty unique answer to the Mary question.
I, I
Also,
thought I thought it was a good one.
I thought it was very good. I also I have Danny, who is a comedian, coming up this week as well, and I'm excited. Ron Martz is joining me this week to record. I don't know how quickly I'll be able to get it out, but he tweeted that there were a lot of stories about the passing of Denny O'Neil,
Yes.
and I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, do you want to join me on Set Listing Bruce?" There is no connection between Denny O'Neil and Bruce Springsteen, but Ron is a huge Springsteen fan. He has been on the show twice,
Yeah.
and he said, I would absolutely love to join you and talk Denny O'Neil. So that's going to come up. I will probably see if we can also put that on a couple other Southgate Media platforms for
Yeah,
people to
that would be interesting to hear because for those who don't know, Denny O'Neil is a legendary DC Comics writer, primarily known for Batman, but also because he wrote a classic run with Neil Adams of Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and
Yes,
also a fantastic series from the 80s and the early 90s, The Question,
yes,
based on the Steve Ditko character that he did with Dennis Cohen and Rick Magyar, and with some great covers by Bill Sikinovich, and just a classic series, one of my favorites, and highly recommended. But sadly, Denny O'Neil passed away from natural causes this past week, and obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to his family at this time, and everybody that all of his fans as well, obviously.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, he definitely is a wonderful legacy. I was able to meet him a couple times at conventions. A very nice guy, and so I'm looking forward to talking to Ron about that. So, Charles, how about
yes.
you? How can people reach you?
Well, if you'd like to reach me, I would love to hear from you. So,
Hey,
uh,
send you a happy birthday greetings, right?
exactly right. So reach out to me on Twitter at Charles Skaggs or on Instagram at Charles Skaggs. Charles, you can reach me on Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog, Geeky Things. Wait for it.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Fandom Zone podcast, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news as it comes out, news of my other podcasts that I do for Southgate Media Group, including the aforementioned Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast that I do with Jesse, and Titan Talk, the Titans podcast that I also do with Jesse, where, as Jesse said, we're going to be reopening Titans Tower here at the end of June, just a couple of weeks from now, shortly after that, when Doom Patrol Season 2 begins airing. And then Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, and a whole ton of pop culture references because, hey, it's us. And then recently, just earlier in the week, this week, um, I was fortunate enough to return to DJ Nick, a friend of ours, his Happiness and Darkness, the superhero movie podcast, where I was part of a discussion where we talked Avengers Infinity War, one of my all-time
Nice.
favorite movies, and had a ball talking about that. So I'm sure that'll be out very shortly from Nick. So stay tuned for that. That was a lot of fun. And then, like Jesse said, I'll be here in a couple days on his Set Listing Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast. So stay tuned for that, kids, because I thought that was a pretty fun discussion we had.
It was. It was a lot of fun.
Something different if you want to hear me talk music for a change.
Yeah, Charles and I always have a great time talking, and as you can tell, we do that a lot. But for this
I
time,
know I have a good time talking. I don't know
I
about
have a great time. Yeah, we just enjoy each other, and so but it was like different muscles for both of us. It
yeah,
was a lot of fun.
yeah. So if you want us to hear us talk about something a little different, check that out. Highly recommend. All right. So next time on the Fandom Zone podcast, we're up to episode 181 as we talk Our Man and Dr. Midnight, the latest in the most unoriginal, uninspired episode titles ever. But Our Man, one of my all-time favorites, especially the Rick Tyler Our Man. So I'm really looking forward to that. Finally, get to see Our Man step into the forefront, and then the Beth Chapel Dr. Midnight is going to be fun to watch too. And as Courtney's group of Infinity Inc., or excuse me, the Justice Society of America,
Yes.
uh, anyway, so they're coming together, and her little superhero clique comes together and gets ready to fight some more bad guys. So the superheroes keep expanding on the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Jesse, any final thoughts as we sign off?
No, I once again this just is I keep saying this, but it is like cold lemonade or a shade tree. It is just perfect for this summer.
On a hot summer day.
Yeah, it has just been a joy every week watching this, and I love where we're going, and I just think this is a really special addition to the the televised universe, no matter what CW or Belantraverse, whatever. This is truly, I think, one of a unique and fun addition to superhero canon on TV.
Yeah, I think it's a great summer series, like you said. And hopefully everybody's been enjoying our discussions as we've been going through these episodes. And if so, please tell your friends about us because we'd love to reach out and broaden our audience. And then everybody come on back next week as we talk Our Man and Dr. Midnight right here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.